Earth buildings in Yemen, I wouldn't call them earth buildings. I would be more specific, because there are various types of buildings that use materials which are from the very soil or the earth or the ground or mountains or wadis. Regarding mud brick architecture, which has been my speciality or point of interest for the last at least 25, if not more years, I've worked in some great detail at establishing how these buildings are made. I'm not an historian, so I don't like to attach dates to buildings. The buildings I've worked on definitely go back to 200, 300 and some more years, but we know for a fact that these buildings have been there since pre-Islamic times, so we're talking of civilizations as old as Saba, Queen of Sheba. And I think if you go back to Genesis, you'll find the mention of both Shibam and Tarim and Hadramut in the Torah. Now, how they're made is extremely complex, because Yemen is one of the most sophisticated civilizations that has maintained and continued to construct its buildings and its architecture with these materials. When you've got 7 and 8 and 9 floors constructed in sun-dried mud brick, it's already a huge feat, both engineeringly and construction-wise, and when it comes to design, it's superior. So, you know, whether you construct palaces in sun-dried mud brick and can build up to 40 rooms and 40 bathrooms in one building, as in Khayla, for example, one just has to look and see, you know, why and what has made this so incredible and amazing. You know something, apart from trying to be philosophical or sounding scientific about the ecology of these buildings, essentially the fact that this architecture has worked so well for hundreds of years for its inhabitants, and it's an architecture that can identify as a culture, as a deep, profound culture, which is very closely related to the socio-economics of communities that have lived there and that have mastered and been the masters of this civilization for so long, I think in itself ought to acknowledge the importance of it ecologically and otherwise. I think the best way to compare it ecologically or to discuss it or identify it as ecologically viable or sound or sustainable is just compare it with the ugly, mediocre, imported Western forms of buildings that are being used there, which are commercially viable because they fit into a more speculation market kind of economy. Culturally devoid, completely. It's not just that they are great because they are ecologically important. It's not that they are great because they are cheaper to build and because people know how to construct them. But it's because there's a very strong cultural, economic, social discipline related to the entire matrix that is built around them, you know, which makes these places very important, and it makes these places exceptional, and it makes these places comparable to any other beautiful city that you find in Florence or in Italy in the countryside.